Live. I am. It does seem a little dark in here. Also, I'm not quite lined up. So let me get my. Right there. Okay. It's always a little confusing getting started. We have to continue our journey of implementing ECS, also known as Entity Component System, to our Godot project. So far, initially by only using GDScript. But who knows? We might have to. It seems like we do have to go into non-GDScript situation here eventually, if we really want full depth of optimization. However, I do have a little handy-dandy note of what I have done so far, possible options going forward. Last time we were chatting, or last time we were doing the experiment, we were at implementing the what we call the AOS, array of structure. Hey Devi. Devi says, "Whoops, I'm drawing and watching. What's up, Ez?" Oh yeah, no problem. Doing well. We're just trying to continue on. Uh, Hopefully my sound is all set up. I know sometimes my audio gets all funky when I try to start. Hey Cooley. Hey, you got your first. Nice. Hello. All right, well, before we go any deeper, let's do a little announcement, some sound check, making sure that I sound okay. Do I sound okay, Cooley? Oh, gee. There's all kinds of noises happening outside. Devi says, so I got my phone case I draw today. Oh, nice. Congrats. Get your drawing done. I also just ate, so we'll see if I get guessy and all burpy. I'll have to mute myself when I do that. Definitely makes me phlegmy, as gross as that sounds. But here we are, YouTube. EWO on site, hello. Hi. As you can see, I still am rocking my mustache right now. Hold on, I feel like I'm not centered. Am I crazy? I'm not centered. Okay, I might have to... Hold on. I might have to redo the positioning of the camera here. It's a little annoying that I'm not centered. If I do this, it feels a little bit more centered, doesn't it? Maybe it does. Okay. Wait, what? Why am I not centered anymore? I think that needs to come... Let's see. I need to turn it towards my bookshelf a little more, or I have to just be over here. Like that. I guess that's the answer. All right. Good enough. I mean, you know what? People are not watching me to get centered in their life. Hey. Oh, sorry, Devi. First has already been claimed. Hey, Void. Coolly got it. Iwa says, what would you do if someone broke into your home to shave the stash? Well, there are multiple concerns there. I don't think the shaving of my stash is the problem. I think the hey, whoa, that's new. Hey, Streampunk Sheep, long time no see on YouTube. Sent hiding for 10 jewels. Is that new like monetization feature? Or is that what is that? I don't know what that is, but thank you. Thanks for the 10 jewels. I guess that's a new bits. I'm gonna give away 10 membership right now. Gotta get my monthly membership away on YouTube to random folks, as it does. Oh my gosh. Oh, the sound effects is gonna keep going, isn't it? You're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to let it play so it doesn't mess with the content that I'm about to do. But yeah, we're getting started right now. Let's see. Streampunk Sheep says, I have no idea. I thought it was an emote. Maybe it is an emote. Maybe it's like a channel point. I don't know what that is. I'm going to assume that you gave me money and then just say thank you. Maybe not. Either way, either way, we're continuing on. We have a lot of things to cover here. One of which is we need to make our wheel, which I guess for now we'll keep track here in case. We're calling this a Learn Dev Stream Content Topics. So, oh, hello. Oh, I guess it doesn't do. Learn Dev Stream Topics. I guess Learn to Dev. Learn to Game Dev specifically. Oh my god, the sound effect is going to keep going. Let me know if it's too loud. This would be the time to adjust for it, if anything. Let's see what else is going on here. Voice says, "How's everyone?" El Cato says, "I know you're up to something. I know exactly. Evil Inside actually knows who I am secretly and can sneak in and shave my stash, apparently." Devi says, "We can keep redeeming first, lol." You can redeem it, but it'll refund you by saying, "Hey, it's already claimed." Devi's just trying to survive. Third trimester. So I'm officially tired of being pregnant. Oh my goodness. I guess I miscalculated. I thought by now you would be free of that. But I suppose, well, take care, take care. Yeah, just hang in there, says Void. Exactly. Oh, that's right. What Devi meant by phone case is that she is doing fun art project on it. Got my art printed on case. Ooh, fun. Look at that. Devi's gonna be doing some art sales here. Go buy it, I guess, when it opens. It's really good, actually. Congrats on getting that started. That print looks really nice. It looks hand drawn. Yeah. It's a kitty bitty. Yeah, cute. Devi says, haha, November 10th is the due date. Wow, you still have a long time to go. Relatively speaking. Streampunk says, the gems have monetary value. Weird. I have 990 jewels. Oh, you have jewels that you can give that has monetary value that you didn't pay for? I wonder if that's a YouTube membership benefit. Like, you know, the monthly YouTube, what is it called? Is it called YouTube membership? The premium, YouTube premium? I wonder if part of the YouTube premium perk is you get gems to give away. Maybe. Ewo Insight says, what do you mean? Of course I know you leaked your resume, remember? I scrubbed that. You're not supposed to remember that. Also, I moved since then. Maybe that's why I moved. Actually, I moved because I knew Ewo Insight had evil plans to take over and do creepy stuff to me. Okay. Anyways, I need to do this. So seriously, what we have been doing since last week is that. Hold on, I gotta read this stuff. Stringpunk Sheep says OGs know the scrubbed leak. Yeah, exactly. The OGs have all the information, but it's okay. I have moved. My phone number hasn't changed, so you can still call me, but I probably won't pick up. You gotta text me first if you're gonna call me. Don't go looking for it. Debbie says he moved on up to the east side to the deluxe apartment in the sky. Exactly. Debbie says I may be the only one to get the reference, but I'm okay with that. All right. So what was I saying? So we started looking into ECS. We ran into a little problem, which was yes, array of structure was indeed no. Structure of arrays were indeed faster than array of structure. It's known as AOS versus SOA. This is the basically cache optimization thing. Watch last week's VOD if you're curious about it. I'm not going to repeat myself too much here. But basically, the idea is when you have arrays and then you're accessing those entities by the array, then you have more chance of hitting your cache for your CPU, which makes it significantly faster. However, when we did the experiment, the problem is that because the way Godot handles nodes, I had to come up with my own draw operation to make the nodes move around and be visible on the screen. Problem? The underscore draw function, drawing through that. By the way, I did an experiment, so the code is a little different right now. I'll try to keep updated with everybody so that when I finally edit this into a whole video, it makes more sense. But basically, underscore draw function that we use for every tick, especially for every tick, was too slow. So that was the bottleneck. So we took that out, and I said, well, let's just compare the calculation. So calculation right now is on every tick for every entity, or character, I guess we're calling it. We choose a random direction to move the node. And then without the visuals, I believe the ECS version was definitely faster. Like when we had like 100,000 or 10,000 entity, it was like 50 milliseconds faster, which is pretty significant. It's not nothing. So that was cool. But idea is like, well, how do we unlock the drawing operation? So I delved into what I know as a rendering service. So this is 1,000 entity right now. We are on ECS version. So you can see the update duration is 1 millisecond with 1,000 here. And then the whole process only takes like 5 milliseconds, whatever. Let's do this at 10,000 so I can remind myself what's all going on. Cooley says, also gonna lurk. Thanks everyone being here and lurking. It helps. So let's see, 10,000 right now. So 10,000 items, it's not too bad. 10 milliseconds for processing. And then the whole drawing adds about 20 more milliseconds here, or 10 more milliseconds. It goes up and down. But I'm sure there's some calling thing happening. It's usable. Compared to non-ECS, which is by just using regular arrays of entities and then updating their position property, not too bad. It seems like it's about like 10 millisecond difference per update, maybe 5. It's a little bit higher. So the theory is getting proven. But something that I did notice is either way. So this is 100,000. Unusable. If I were to make a game, this is not usable. Let's say I make it into ECS here. 100,000. I'm a little afraid that my computer is going to crash and then the stream will crash, so I'm going to be careful here. Little better. It's about like 100 millisecond, 50 millisecond better. But still, visually, this is unusable. So you could say, oh, it's a little faster, but then like you still can't make a game out of it. So it's kind of useless. So a few things I had to look into. So I proved that ECS is better, but also I proved that the draw is bottleneck. So I changed the draw operation for the ECS version. You can see right here on every tick. I do a rendering thing here. Entity components, I do update render here. And you can see in the update render, I go through each IDs and then I transform a RID. This is using something called rendering server. Took me a while. I mean, I can't show here. I don't want to really show how to use it. But basically, the servers, for those of you who are interested in optimizing in Godot, LV Doodle says, no crash. Entropy God is on your side. Indeed, indeed. I am thankful that I am spare from the crashing loop here. But rendering server aside, the optimization there happens through a lot of like server. So if you look at optimization, I think I could just search optimization. Let's see. It's somewhere in here. Performance. Okay, so under performance, common optimization using servers. Hey, thanks for the follow, our Palm Pinoy. Hi, welcome. So Godot obviously allows you to use, the tree structure to set up the nodes, and then like whatever nodes you have auto draws and blah 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 sprites and stuff like that. Instead of relying on the existing tree system to draw and do physics and stuff like that, you can actually skip the whole tree structure by just directly accessing the system they call servers within Godot that process these things. So you have a physics server that does a physics calculation, 3D physics, audio server, rendering server. So what I did was I took the rendering server and then basically raw draw on the canvas item that way. That's how I reduced it from whatever the whole draw circle was like 200 millisecond to like back to like 40 millisecond, which is a little bit more usable. But right now, still, um, the two are basically comparable now. ECS is a little faster, but still not fast enough. And so I was doing some research and I came across this concept here. So the array of integers, this is still, I think, let me take a look at my note so I'm not yelling fake news. So there's I'm sure if you've been developing in Godot, you've ran into this thing called packed int or packed bytes, right? These are more compact, like actually like bit packed way of organizing array of information. And so when you cache, you get to cache more. It's a little bit more optimal. So this is an exploration that I wanted to do here. So instead of using array of int, let's try to use packed int 32 array and see if that makes it any faster. So there's some comparison to be made there. I'm a little curious if this is actually going to make any difference. But yeah. So what does it say? My note says, a typed array of integer still stores full 24-byte variants per element. So I guess what that means is that in Godot, they have a non-typed generic like class object type thing. And apparently that's called variance so that you can have like anything like int, vector, whatever. And that seems to pre-assign 24 bytes. So meaning even though I say, hey, this is an array of integer, it pre-assigns each entity a 24-byte space. Meaning even if you're caching, depending on your cache size, you don't get to grab as many entities per caching. So if we can use actually like bit-specific packed integer, then maybe you can cache more elements at once, and that makes it a little bit faster. So let's test that out. K Cook says, "Oh no, why? What? Oh no, what? Did I disconnect? I'm still live, right? Why you say, oh no? You scare me. Ah, come on, K-Cug. You know you can't. Oh, wait. Jeez. You said yo. I forgot. Somebody on YouTube, please. When somebody writes yo, it auto trains that translates to oh no. I don't know what language this is that they think it's saying oh no. A little confusing. All right. Okay, I got scared for a little bit. The Kaizen Diary says Osmanthus wine tastes the same as I remember. What? Okay. I'm glad you're having your wine and watching. Better than not whining and watching, I'm guessing. But I do not condone alcoholism, so drink responsibly. Wrestle Frestle says this is some big brain stuff that I am very, very far away from in my Godot journey. Hey, look, this is all something that we will eventually get to. And it's just kind of fun to learn. It's just like a little fun little thing to have in the back of your head. Now, interesting that you mentioned that though. So I've been doing content making here on YouTube and Twitch for a while now, but I'm trying to compact the experience a little more. So I'm doing a segmented series on live where I actually do game dev topic that are picked by the viewers, and I just spin the wheel on the topic, and then I just, whether I know it or not, I just go research and experiment with it. So it's like actually something that I can streamline to making a full video and shorts with. So if you have a topic that you're currently interested in or you're struggling with that you want to add to the pool, go ahead and do that. I think so far we had a platformer. It wasn't actually platformer. It was something else, but it was like a similar to platformer. And also in our Discord, we have some other suggestion here, and we'll continue talking. I mean, we can edit this, so it's okay. It's okay that I'm jumping around. This is the magic of the edit. You were here first. When you see it in the video, all groomed out, you'll know that you've seen the behind the scene. Okay. What were the topics here? We went. Our Neomestry said shader code for dumbest of the dummies. Okay. Shader code for dummies. How to get started. Another topic was debugging. Debugging. I guess this is especially important in the world of AI where once, let's say, you're using AI to debug or you're using AI to program and AI gets stuck or like you don't know how to continue on, like you're lacking the context, so you are struggling with debugging process, might be more relevant. What to do when things don't work the way you think. I've been debugging way too much with ChatGPT and I feel like I need some general tips. Great. That's one thing. Sensible tree planning. I guess it's like a project structure / tree structure in Godot. That's something we can look into. I don't think I have a very specific suggestion for this, but it's interesting. Hey, thanks for the follow, or what was it? Oh, hey, Cake Hug with the 10 joules. Thank you, appreciate it. I heard that this is a new thing and it actually has a monetary value, so great. Thank you, appreciate it. And apparently, some people just have it randomly. I'm guessing it's part of your YouTube membership, but who knows? But yeah, appreciate the 10 joules here. eTuktuk, hi, welcome on Twitch. Arneo says, hey, I'm on screen. Yeah, you're on screen. Eo says, it's Gen Alpha language. What? Yo is a Gen Alpha language? I don't know about that. Alvidudo says, no crash. Entropy God is on your side. Oh, okay. I also didn't want to risk it because we're doing optimization heavy stuff. I'm not doing my vertical and horizontal mode stream at the same time. I'm just doing single stream mode. I reduced the FPS to 30 to help with the performance, by the way. I'm not sure if you guys can notice it because it's like mostly dev stuff and I'm talking anyways. So I'm not doing like video game stuff. So I figured 30 FPS is fine. Not Pistu says, I want to learn Godot too. Yeah, this is a great place to be then. Obviously, beginner, intermediate, all that. You know, I can't address everybody's problem at the same time, but eventually it'll get to your topic. Wrestle Frestle says, that scene tree planning is honestly so real. I feel like I always start out organized and devolve into chaos. You know, to be true, chaos management. I don't know if I've quite figured it out myself as well. And that makes it a perfect topic for me, I think. Don't be shy of choosing topics only I understand, because part of the learning for everyone watching and for me is that I get to learn new stuff. And two, you get to see how people who's had experience learn new things or things that are ambiguous. You know, what do you call that? Dealing with ambiguity is a trait that people look for in a job too, so that's good. All right, let's see. I think there was one more thing here. Let me see. I think somebody asked for more advanced shader stuff. Debugging here. Also for the shader code bullet point, I'm up for particle shader. Okay, particle shader, which is interesting. Anyways, thanks for joining Discord, by the way. Here, you know what? Might as well show you Discord. Go join my Discord. I announced my stream schedule, which is pretty irregular, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. What else? Not Pistu says, maybe I can learn by watching you. Maybe you can teach me by watching me. Streampunk says, I subbed to YouTube Music before. YouTube Music before. Maybe I got it from there. Maybe. K-Cook says, Jules is a way of giving a gift to the streamer. I think it's a good thing because it doesn't have to be super expensive. Yeah, it's much better than just straight up donations. I think they learned that from Twitch at least. Twitch is like bits and all that is really beneficial to streamer in that way because it's like a lower barrier of entry. Um, Streampunk says, I want Ezra to research 18th century mercantilism. Wait, is this legit? I'm going to put it. I'm going to put it in there. I guess I do have to filter the topic by game dev related stuff. I mean, you could always like, wiggle any reason in to say this is related to game dev or anything, but It was says, what about Steam Deck? Is it verified yet? Your game? Stop it. As I said, it's on my Steam Deck, but I don't know if Steam has verified it as a Steam. I haven't even released my demo. I need to get through that. Don't worry about that. I'm doing that in the background. I'm doing a. I'm spending a lot of money on this game, by the way. So I have my music ready. I have my splash screen, whatever, the capsule art already ready. Game is going through the gameplay loop design. And then I am in the process of hiring a UI UX designer with a little bit of an art direction background to do a audit of everything, where anything that doesn't feel professional or like unintentional, I'm trying to get that like ideated and fixed so that it feels more like actual like finalized product as opposed to a hobby game. So it's going through that. So a lot of work is being put into it. So we'll see. We'll see. That's coming through. My Shatter or Through the Shatter is the game. You can wish list it now if you want, but I'm holding out the wish list advertisement for when I actually release the trailer. El Cato says, I'm doing some memory management since isn't 13 megabyte memory size of a book tad too big? A book? A book that is 13 megabyte? Are we talking about bytes or bits? I'm sure it's bytes. Russell Frestel says, the hardest thing for me is commitment to an idea. I get about 2 weeks into making something and then, yeah, I mean, that's real. It's unfortunately, sometimes you just have to get a practice of like writing down your ideas. It's okay to ideate. It's fun. It's a fun break, but you need to trust that the ideas will not run away from you. Meaning, once you note it down and you have a reminder for it, that's as good as it'll get. You don't have to like get obsessed with it. Finish one project at a time. You need to just like park it, write it, park it, work on your current thing, and you will get, every game will go through a boring part where you have to bring it to completion. And if that is your goal, you want to release it and you want to see a result of it, because this is what you're doing. You're so excited about the beginning, like the beginning part of the process, that you're never getting a practice of the end game. You know? It's like you're getting skilled, but you're getting really skilled in the beginning part. It's like when you're learning a game and you only do level 1 and 2 all the time, and then you never fight the boss. You might get really good at fighting everything else, but not the boss. So you do want to kind of bias yourselves towards like getting there eventually. Nev6999 says, at what point should someone release a playable version of their game for testing? The mechanics are all done with, some placeholder art, but unsure whether the lack of proper art juice will deter people. Well, for testing, you do want to note that that is the case, but sometimes you need to accept this, by the way. Testing, most important thing is to not to interrupt people when they're giving you feedback or when they're experiencing and struggling through it. And part of that could be the art, and you just take note. And sometimes you get to the point where you're like, even if you say, hey, art will come, I know it doesn't look right, I'm just trying to focus on feedback on the gameplay. People will still give you outside of the scope feedback, which can be still useful. It's just you need to know that that's what's going to happen. So what I like to do is I like to try to make sure I do a once over and pre-note all the distracting things that I know people will point out, and try to minimize it as much as possible, or make sure I point it out before the testing happens. Iwa says, you can add that as a topic. What it takes to get your game Steam Deck verified and what form you gotta fill. Oh, okay. Steam Deck verification for your game. Complete it, or progress, or I guess I'm going to say chosen topic so far. We started with our ECS and cache optimization, or ECS and optimization for many entities, which we did last week. We started at August 8th. August 8th of 2026 to present. So this is where we are at. Anyways, for the sake of the edit, I need to make sure I pick up from the topic again. So let's see. We talked about the rendering server. Yeah, so optimization, they recommend using the server so you don't go through the regular Godot stuff, which is basically programmatically drawing, programmatically calculating, programmatically adding entity functions to a node, or fake content, so that you kind of bypass the churn of adding to the tree. So I use that to do the rendering service to make my drawing of the ECS version of the game catch up. Still not enough. Right at 100,000 entities, it still isn't moving in a way that I feel confident that it will be functional. So the next optimization I want to compare is ECS, right? So let's do a test real quick. We're going to take note of our 100,000 run, right? We got 100,000 run. Processing right now. This is a really bad way to measure this, but I'm going to say it's between 90 to 110. 130. On average, like 110 millisecond, right? Okay. So this is how long it takes for the update to run, a single loop of update for 100,000 entities. So if I change this, I'm hoping that something will come up. This might not be meaningful at all, but ideally, if we're making each entity's size more compact, we're caching more into the CPU cache, so therefore the speed of the calculation and iteration will be faster. So we're going to go into our little character component here, which with what we know as a structure of arrays, right? Because it's structure of arrays. We're going to change this to packed int 32 array. All of these. I don't know about the ID. IDs need to. I think IDs can be just, whatever. We'll do this. And then have to change all the other implementation to match these implementation here. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Somebody keep that number in their mind, because I'm not going to remember that it was 100 to 110 millisecond at all. Oh, WrestleFrestle also says, and for my final comment for the night, I'll be praising Mr. Dev. I joined stream thinking I was just going to watch some dev work being done, but pleasantly surprised with how warm and genuine you are. Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's all about the vibes. I don't care if you think I'm dumb, as long as you think I have good vibe and good energy. That's all I care about, right? Anyways, invalid argument for pushback, right? Because we don't do pushbacks on these. I think it's just how do you add item to this? I never actually used this before directly. So append, is that it? Or do you have to predetermine the size? An array specifically designed to 32-bit packs data tightly so it saves memory. The type stores signed 32-bit integer, which means it can take values in interval, blah, blah, blah. It seems like I just need to use the append command. Insert is when there's an actual size. It seems like it's append. Appends an element at the end of the array. Good enough. So we'll do append here. Append for all these pushbacks, I think. Invalid argument for append. For which one? This one seems okay. I'm red-green colorblind as well, so these obviously green and obviously red lines probably look a little similar to me sometimes. WrestleFrestle says, fantastic vibe. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, Danimal. What up, Cootie? Says Danimal. Pretty good. Still got my scraggly mustache growing. Hopefully it'll fill in. I'm hoping that about 2 months in it'll fill in. But we have 2 more months of wait time before I shave it off. The experiment. All right. It's saying that the sprite ID, I guess because RID is an object. I think RID is an object. Yeah. That it can't be packed 32 array. So RID, we're going to keep it as array of int, I think, or array of RID. So we'll keep that. Push back. And that's okay, because the most optimization is coming from the positional change information. So I think we're okay with that. And when we're updating the render, we're accessing that information. This is the rendering. I guess I got to go change the update calculation here. Ah, yes. And this is another opportunity to reduce instruction amount, right? When I'm getting the position X, this is about 4 instructions. I think that's what I noted here. Did I not? I guess I didn't. I guess I didn't note that. Basically, this process of going to the entity address, right? We're going to the entity address and doing a get instruction of the property, right? You do the math, right? Because the entity instruction or get entity it gets to the entity address. And then the property is basically plus something, right? It jumps to a new address, grabs a value and copies it to the register. And then it dereferences it and then gets to this, right? So this whole part can actually be shortcutted by pos x array and then doing pos y array here. I don't know. I mean, you know what? This is for the edit. I might actually be incorrect, and I'm not going to think too hard on what I'm explaining is exactly correct or not. Feel free to correct me in the chat or the comments, I guess. I'm not too picky. I just want eventually the right information to be revealed to the world. So for the sake of time and efficiency, I will speak as though what I'm saying is the truth a lot of the times without giving caveats every time that it may be wrong. Just assume that what I say is potentially wrong when it comes to detailed numbers. Void says, ooh, Godot 4.8, I saw posts where the new line error identifier actually underlines. Like, ooh, that's really helpful. That's going to be helpful for the highlighting. We got Bibels666 says, are you new to game dev? How long have you been learning Godot? I've been doing Godot for like 3.5 years now, I think. Game dev, I guess that still puts me in a new experience, but before that, I was working as a software engineer in big tech like Amazon and Google for 10 plus years before that. I'm kind of back in the software industry right now, just recently. So I am actively programming. So when it comes to programming concept, I know how to navigate it. Doesn't mean I know everything. But what advantage that gives me is that I've done plenty of learning things I don't understand. So at least I am able to shed light on how to go about learning things we don't know. Anyways. Okay, so we changed everything. We did this optimization. So we went from about 90 millisecond to 130 millisecond per update to hopefully, if this runs, I'm not really sure if this will run without a bug straight up. I'll be surprised. It might be faster. Hold on, am I seeing this correctly? That is significantly faster. Hold on. I need a better experiment. So what I did here, about 100 millisecond faster. That's kind of crazy. But that makes sense because we're going from 24 byte structure to 32-bit structure or per item, which packs more in the cache. So now we know. I'm going to get rid of this optimization because this optimization is adding per loop. So I want to see without this optimization what the actual like comparison is. So I should have done that. I should do one optimization at a time. Okay. All right. Master Agent Miyazaki says, "Sweet, good time to join." It seems. Yeah. This is pretty cool. 100,000 items. Okay. Interesting. Um, the bike didn't really add anything. I mean, it did. I guess it's because modern computer has like a pretty predictable size or like pretty significant size of cache. Let me see if I can see my L cache information here. So on my CPU, L1 cache 384 kilobyte is being used. L2 cache is 1.5, and then L3 is 12 megabyte. I mean, I don't know if this is like the limit. I wish I could see what my cache size actually is, but it seems like it's not caching too much, which makes sense. I feel like at 384, it can fit at everything. Here, I'm going to stop this. Yeah, but it is faster, but it's like 5 millisecond faster, which indicates to me that that optimization we did to make it a packed byte array versus just array of int was better, but we weren't really packing in. Like the cache was already big enough that this is not benefiting too much, is what it sounds like. But what did really, really help, which makes sense if you think about it. So right here, this whole like entity component, I'm accessing it directly from the property. Every one of these access is a for instruction, and we're doing 100,000 loops of it, so it's actually pretty big. So extracting that out so that the non-variable properties are already set into a single memory space, and that being used is very helpful. Let me see if there's anything else I don't think so. So like just that change, look, we went from 90 to 100, right? 100,000. 40 milliseconds. That's crazy fast. It's still 150 total. I don't know if this is like better. I mean, this feels a little bit better. Like it almost feels playable at this point. Okay, pretty cool. When in loop, if you really want to optimize, pre-get the array that you're iterating through, which makes sense. Should have known. Okay. Another optimization I'm thinking here for this particular one. The way I'm adding the character ID here. Now, this is not generally applicable. This is just specific to how I wrote this. So the way I'm getting the coordinates through this structure of arrays, the ECS, is by grabbing the character ID and then going to the position array and saying, hey, give me the position of this character ID. However, the way I implemented it, I know for a fact that there are just indices from 0 to whatever. Meaning I don't have to do a get operation of grabbing the ID from an array. I could just literally say character ID is a increment operation instead and say size, like so, right? So difference is that, hey, processor, we're not getting a spot in a memory to get the value. It's just simply whatever you have already plus 1, which is a lot faster on operation. So I'm wondering if this will also increase the speed. Probably not, but it's worth experimenting. Who knows? Until we do it, we don't know. Nah, not really. Didn't have any impact. I don't think so. Just in case the way this is interpreted, I'm going to do one more thing here. Let's see if this does anything. 100,000. Okay. I mean, you can kind of see it. It's a little better, I think. I don't know. Maybe that's like this is a in the territory of what do you call um what is that effect where you take a pill that doesn't do anything, like the sugar pill, and then it feels like it healed you. My God, I need to go. Oh my gosh, placebo. Yes, Master Agent says placebo. Yes, Denny for placebo. Everybody's like placebo, placebo. Yes, yeah, it's in the territory of placebo effect. So I'm not gonna count that as like a real finding, but I tried. All right, somebody wrote. Master Miyazaki says, I'm brushing up on my GLSL and GL programming using a side project as motivation, a real time Bryce 2 like game. I don't know what Bryce is. No meshes, almost all GLs. Ooh, no meshes, all GLs. You know, I always thought about that because, like, if you parameterize your a shader enough, can you process the entire game through a shader only? And at the current power of graphics card, would that be significantly faster than having any kind of CPU rendering? I don't know. It's possible. That was one of the items that I was thinking about here. One of the optimization towards the end is using Compute Shader or GPU2 for drawing, which I'm not sure. But yeah. Denny says GPU are terrible at branching. Yeah, exactly. That's why you gotta be like smart with the math to be like doing the quote unquote branching logic mathematically as opposed to like actually if then blah blah blah. And that makes it really hard. Like you can't really do that for every problem. But yeah. All right. So here's the thing. So I'm using rendering service for optimizing rendering given how Godot does it. However, we're not at the end. 100,000 still unplayable. I mean, like it's forgivable. I think it's almost playable at 10,000 now. It's very good at 10,000. 3 millisecond on 10,000 is crazy. Let's see what the limit is. I want to see what 50,000 looks like. 50, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, little slag here and there. The total is about 60 milliseconds. It seems like as soon as it starts to hit like 100 milliseconds, it feels really unbearable. Yeah, right here. But isn't that crazy? The processing takes like 20, and then the drawing takes another like 30, doubles it. So I want to see if I can make the drawing even faster. And that is, somebody mentioned last week a usage of multi-mesh instance. Now, it's not applicable to everything. Multi-mesh is mostly useful when you're using same texture or same shape multiple times. And I've never used it before, so I actually don't know how to use it exactly. But we're going to try that. It seems like that's a natural next step. So processing, I think, is as fast as it can be. Like at 100,000, 20 millisecond, I feel like if it can draw instantly, this is like really doable. So let's see if we can go from our rendering service implementation to actually using multi-mesh instance. Do I understand what this is? Nope, I don't. I have no idea how to use this. So let's look at the documentation and hopefully we can learn how this works. Denny first says, is Godot doing batched rendering? I'm not really sure about batched rendering. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Are you saying like, does it do like calling where if it's not visible, or are you saying it batches rendering of a section, like the quarter sections? Maybe it's possible. I'm trying not to understand it and still explore it, given the tools that they are describing. But at the least, multi-mesh instance is a specialized node to instance a multi-mesh resource in 2D. This can be faster to render compared to displaying many sprite nodes. I have a feeling that underneath it, this might actually be just using the same mechanic as rendering service, but we'll see. Then he says, is Godot doing a single draw call for all your sprites that share a texture, or is it doing a draw call per instance? It's doing single draw call per per update right now. And that was the whole using a rendering service thing. So before we were doing draw per instance. So you have a draw function here like this. I think before what it was doing was that, you know how we all know the canvas flipping, right? In order to get rid of the vertical splicing or like the whole thing, you draw a background canvas and then you flip the whole thing. So I think the draw operation does the drawing one at a time, where it's drawing onto the blank canvas behind the scene that's not being viewed, and it flips over. But drawing itself takes a long time. It's not the displaying that takes a long time. It's going through all the entities that's supposed to be existing in this and drawing it, as opposed to just understanding it as, well, these are the fastest way to do it would be for each pixel considering one needs to be drawn, as opposed to going through each entity that needs to be drawn. That makes sense? So I'm hoping that the mesh instance does something like that. Or if we were to do a GPU shader approach, that might be something that we do as well. Of course, this is a topic, or this is the point where if somebody knows better than me on that, hey, by the way, thanks for the sub, John Soto, Nevsky, and on YouTube. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. Maybe it does that. So we'll figure this out. I have never used multi-mesh instance before, so I actually don't know if I'm going to be using this correctly, but we'll find out. Super John Soto says, hello, what are you making? We're just doing our little experiment. I should probably update my description. Basically, for weekly or bi-weekly, this is either once a week or every other week, I come on here, do a live session of a let's learn how to game dev segment. Basically, we run a wheel of topics that the viewers have chosen for me to learn and teach, or if I already know, I can experiment, whatever. Learn and experiment around to make ourselves an expert in the matter. An expert is probably a stretch. Today, last week, we started on ECS on Godot, Entity Component System Architecture, which is a cache optimization leader, right? So we were doing some of that. We found out that the update is faster. We made more update changes to make the update even faster, but then we're being bottlenecked by the draw operation. So far we use a service structure called rendering service, which is something, or rendering server, which is recommended by Godot document to be like, hey, if you want to optimize something, use this directly instead of using node to draw, which we did. Still not fast enough. Next thing we're utilizing is multi-mesh instance, which it says is for if you're repeating same shape over and over again, this is the way to do it. So we'll see the benefit of this. And then we have some other options as well that I have taken note. That's what we're doing. I should really record this or something so that I don't have to repeat this every time. Let's see. Outrigger says, I'm about to start my very first game, no experience. I'm just a UI designer by profession. I want to develop a game similar to how Jigsaw Puzzle works. Any advice or considerations I need to know? Well, it depends on how you want to interact with it. It seems like it's simple enough that you don't really have to worry about loop, like a process game loop. Not in a mechanical sense. I'm talking about like programming wise. But I do say it's good that you have a goal in mind of like what kind of game you want to make, so that gives you an idea of like popular genre or popular mechanic that is adjacent to the game mechanic that you're trying to implement, right? That's always a learning process. It's like nobody's going to have an exact tutorial for what you're trying to make. However, you will be able to find things that are like adjacent. So for example, if you're doing Jigsaw, so you can be like, how do I drag and drop? That kind of stuff will be there. You know, it's like a matter of finding out enough Lego pieces to put them together. I also say for Godot, if you're just getting started on learning how to make games on Godot and you have no idea where to begin, and this is a good practice, go to their Godot document, official document, go to getting started, and do your first 2D game and 3D game tutorial. It'll give you how they're meant to be used, what they're meant to, do. And then you're going to start getting a dictionary of words and concepts that you didn't have name for. You get informed by that, and then you start expanding the question. You say, what does that mean? You look into it, and now you have like a new ways to ask questions. Expand, expand, expand. That's my general recommendation. Um, let's see. I'm like dragging my feet in learning right now. No, I'm kidding. I'm just trying to read the comments here. Got to catch up here. Let's see. Mr. Miyazaki says, lucky me, I have spent years on writing branchless programming, haha, but yeah, I am not doing all the game in GLSL. I'm doing all 3D visuals in there. The only triangles I generate is the two that form the quad. I render the fragment shaders on which I generate non-polygon based geometry. All game logic is on CPU. Okay, that makes sense. Also, a lot of graphical programming knowledge here, some of which I've only heard of and never actually done and experienced myself. So conceptually, I understand what you mean, but I don't know what it looks like. Wait, did I get rated by any chance? Oh no, that was 7 days ago. Whew. I was like, oh my god, I got rated and I didn't thank you. I didn't say thank you. No, that's not the case. Denny says, also curious if your Pact 32 array supports SIMD operations. SIMD operations. I'm not going to lie, I have no idea what you mean by that. Single instruction, multiple data. Oh, yeah. Okay. Where a single CPU instruction processes multiple data points at the same time. I would be surprised if it doesn't. It really depends on how the script is optimized or how it's interpreted. The problem when using GDScript is that GDScript is an interpreted language. So typically a part where a CPU optimization happens for certain instructions where they can foresee this is a loop instruction and this is the instruction that's going to run. They can like do that operation on multiple buses at the same time. I don't see why it wouldn't be able to do that. I feel like modern computing, most of them does that. So I'm not really sure. But I don't have an answer. Maybe somebody does. Starfish Prime Game says, thoughts on using GPT or AI to help teach me how to better develop rather than create the game. Teaching is always good. And I always say this, by the way, I mean, there's always a political, environmental, and sociological impact of using AI, which you can't ignore when we talk about this. But I'm going to assume those are not the consideration that we're thinking about when we talk about this, just as a tool, just as a straight up tool. The AI will not be as useful or as cheap as it is now ever again, in my opinion. It'll only get more expensive, which means it's like one of those things where while you have it, use it to your best ability. Now, let's say you're somebody who's being unlocked by AI. So AI does a lot of building for you. Great. But that's like somebody giving you the fish as opposed to learning how to fish, right? So now while you have this like cheap resources where you can have an opportunity to both implement things and learn things, you should learn. And I think learning through AI is okay. Only downside, in my opinion, I say this every time, is that AI is incapable of saying I don't know or like I'm lying, right? It hallucinates. It's like mathematically inevitable. It hallucinates information, which means you need to be able to have the discernment of like when to trust or when to not care if it is right or wrong, right? Because a lot of times when I'm using it at work, it's like I know there's a chance this is probably made up, but I don't care because like that information is kind of moot point for me, type of thing. Or assuming like so, I have this context of like programming before where it gives me an kind of intuition of what is important, what is not important. If it is important and it can be faked, then I go, I know how to like cross-reference. So developing that sense probably is important. For quick access of information, sure, it's really good. But I always say when AI teaches you something new that you didn't know, or like you're like, oh, that kind of makes sense, but I'm not really sure, go through the work yourself. It's still more efficient than learning it blank because you wouldn't have known the possibility of that concept or like that concept being relevant. So it revealed that to you. The surfacing of information is valuable enough. So, but take caution as you can. Let's see. Streampunk says, I feel like AI is only useful for people that already know a topic. Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean when I explain all this. But if you're using it as a research tool, you really need a good discernment here. Master Miyazaki said a bunch of stuff. Sweet, good time to join the scenes, blah, blah, blah. We saw that. GLSL. Yes, it makes sense. If you have enough entities, going per pixel could be cheaper. But I would at least make some napkin math to sure it is worth it. I mean, at 100,000 entity, where each entity is 64 by 64, you have the pigeonholing of like only so many. Can you overlap perfectly? I guess. But yeah, Denmo says, "Are we making the next WoW killer?" I am. I am actually. My next game project after I release this one is a MMORPG, just for the giggles. But we'll see. Fausrook says, there is an official Godot blog post that talks about ECS. Does it? Well, I will go read it after all this. Part of the fun is actually experimenting with this. So I'm going to do the experiment and then I'll read it and then I'll probably include that as a part of the final edit if I ever go into it for the completeness. Let's see. Greenmarks 7470 says, hi there, chat. Is there anyone who makes 3D modeling plus animation in Blender for game engines such as Godot? I would have some noob questions. Ask away and I'll read it and somebody might answer. Or somebody might answer before I read it. Let's see. Starfish says, it's like I ask AI to teach me how to fish. I usually have some knowledge of topic I use it for and double check it with user guide or for. Yeah, I believe that you do that. The real danger of AI is that it does slowly make you lazier and lazier. I noticed that about myself. It's because it's like, yeah, you do confirm, you do all that, you are aware of this, but when you're like put against the time or like the pure speed of AI just spitting things out, like we can't help but just glean. Like it's just built in us to glean. And eventually you go, whatever. So just be careful. Learn to read the book as well. Greet Streampunk Sheep says, hey, Greet, I'm sure there are AI generators that make 3D models of real world objects. Oh, yeah, for sure. Let's see. Peng 14? Pen Q14 says, hello there, or maybe it's XIV, like Civ. Says, hello there, I'm just starting out with game development. I learned GDScript last week, but I still haven't actually started making anything. I already have an idea for a game, but I'm not sure what the best first step would be. Should I start prototyping, learn more Godot, make a small project first, etc.? Any tip for a beginner? Okay, here's a, if you actually have a game idea that you want to do, you have some way of start, prototype, get stuck, ask questions, put away your prototype, learn based on your question, right? So this is what I'm saying. You don't know what you need to learn. You do prototyping, you get stuck on something, you learn around that topic, be expert on that topic, expand, repeat. And eventually you finish your prototype into a quote unquote finished, not really, but finished game. And then now you have a knowledge to make your next one great from the get-go. Just don't be afraid to make mistakes and try to start over. Starting over is not that expensive. Bibble666 says, I use AI for learning something like engine functions, asking about my architecture, and if he can find issues about something I make, but yeah, I've noticed a few times it can make a lot of errors. And if learning, I don't know if generating code with AI is a good way to learn. Yeah, I think the best way to use AI is to restrict it. Harness is what they call, right? Having tests, way to confirm, verify, because the biggest problem is that it can make stuff up, but then it can't make stuff up if it can check itself for correctness. But that's also a homework. Fausrook says, yeah, because you can't learn everything, better to take a target and see how far you can get. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how I compare it to game tutorial a lot. Learning how to game develop, learning anything in general is similar to how you would want a game tutorial. Some people, I mean, also, by the way, this is a difference in people's personality. Some people actually rather have a really thick book of rules that they get to read first before playing. Typically, a lot of TTRPG players are like that, tabletop RPG players, because they're used to it. Or board game players love that too. Um, for the most part, for the most people, even the people who like learning information as a chunk and then applying it, it works best when the information is provided to you when you ask the question. So in tutorial, the jump combo, for example, let's say there's like a jump input and then action to do some specific like action to hit a certain target. Teaching that may or may not stick, but it'll definitely stick if you introduce that as soon as you introduce that relevant danger for it, right? A lot of games do this so that there's less information for players to retain while it's irrelevant. There's like a good association mapping. So same thing about learning is how I try to tell people to be like, yeah, do stuff, make stuff, get stuck. Once you get stuck, is an opportunity for you to write the question that will map that answer to your brain. Okay, Bobby Hill. Hey, hello, Bobby. Welcome, welcome. Um, let's see. Pseudoweep says people need to keep in mind AI is an utility tool, not your replacement. Yeah, for sure. Also, as I said before, it's only getting expensive. They haven't figured out the cost issue yet, so I wouldn't rely on it fully. Green Mark says, because modeling character is one thing, but modeling for game is something different than modeling for 3D printing figures, right? I'm not familiar enough with it. I know there's like a difference between, so if you're making models for games, then polygon counts really do matter. But if you're making it for print, it's just outer layer scan. So I don't think the polygon count matters as much. But you know, I don't know. I might be wrong. That's my assumption. Um, Bobby Hill says, it has helped me a lot to schedule a huge chunks of time where I don't use any AI at all while working on my project. Entire days of hand making are a lot more productive too than a block during the day. Yeah, no, I agree. Starfish Prime Game says, hey, Starfish, by the way, says, yeah, I get you haven't done a game jam because I feel like I haven't learned Godot yet as using tutorials, or AI only shows you very hyper specific coding situations, not always coding logic. Yeah. AI also is most trustworthy when you scope it down all the way down to the smallest thing. Shatley want to. It's just because it's the nature of how many different ways to do exists in the world. Sorry, I'm yapping a lot right now, but this is the whole point of doing live stream, I guess, instead of just me going to the thing. For those of you who's joining me, I haven't seen anything. I'm trying to use multi-mesh instance for the first time to optimize drawing. We'll get to it. Shatley123 says, me trying to be positive about AI is hoping it turns out to be like the AI in Star Trek The Next Generation. You know, the problem with the Star Trek Next Generation is it's also in a world where food, the medical things, and economy is perfectly solved. So the need and usage of technology in that kind of future is completely different than how in our current society would try to develop that into. I do think that there is a order of technology that needs to happen with certain solutions and certain societal structure change in order for that kind of world to happen. If any of those things happen out of order, there's a chance of suppression of technology and all those things, I think. Of course, this is just an opinion. Who knows? We're just theorizing about things that never happened. Green Mark says, it's funny because I was making game and then realized I can't progress more because I don't understand 3D modeling and animating at all. Hey, Leginger, long time no see. Thanks for the raid. Welcome, Raiders. Shout out. Leginger, our on Twitch spokesman for vibe code everything and become successful anyways. Dev. Yeah. Leginger. Yeah, Leginger is always streaming because on the other side of the world, I think. Well, not world, but in different time zone. They usually like late night for me and in the morning. But yeah, Leginger Dev had a very successful launch of a game that he um, vibe coded bunch, but also still done handmade drawing and all that stuff. So, once again, if you understand coding, if you understand project management, like those things need to be there in order for these tools to be efficient. But, anyways, no hate or opinion, just a fact. Welcome, Raiders, either way. Um, for those of you who's rating, I know I said this like bazillion times right now. I am changing my streaming thing to be like once a week or once every other week. We're doing segmented content so I can straight up port it to YouTube video where I spin the wheel on game dev topics that people want to learn or want me to learn and experiment with. So I just choose one of them and then I just kind of go hams on it as a teaching moment for myself. And then once I understand it, I teach it to others. And then I also experiment around it to see how it works specifically in Godot. Right now, we're on ECS for Godot. We started with, let's see how much optimization we can do on the multiple entity. We're getting down to the being stuck on rendering. So I did the rendering server, and then we're about to do multi-mesh. Otherwise, we're keeping up with the chat here. But yeah, no, so anybody who's just joining me or interested in this thing, feel free to add a topic for me to spin on. Let's see. Streampunk says Star Trek first. We are in a cyberpunk dystopia. Yeah, basically. I mean, both can be true. Maybe deep, deep in the future. That's something that can come. Shatley says, that makes sense. Hope we don't go to cyberpunk route. Yeah, I hope so. Bye, Ginger. Thanks for the raid again. Hunt says, how can I properly check RAM consumption and objects in Godot? I used Limbo AI for states, but I noticed when I switch states, the RAM goes up a bit and stays. I need to find out what got added and not removed and how to do it manually. Well, there are a few things. There are also orphaned nodes concept, right? I'm guessing you already are looking at the monitors in the debugger. I often look at the processes here, see if it's a bottlenecking in the physics process or the drawing. And then you can start kind of like looking at where things are. Also, there are some operations that can print things out. So for example, I think the was something like print, like they have some print logic, for example, print orphan nodes, which I can attach to if you have issues with orphan nodes, where it tells you which objects are being orphaned. Otherwise, really just kind of system print of what is being live and dead is kind of way you would have to do it, in my opinion. I'm sure there's more deeper profiler. I've never actually used a full profiler before. So if you scope and state, if you have a full state of the game moment that we are trying to analyze, I'm sure the profiler will help. I've never used it, so I can't guarantee that. But that's just something that off top of my dome. Shortle says, I don't understand profiler yet as well. Lol, thanks for the idea. Yeah, no problem. You know what? Debug profiler. Is it more than just monitor? Okay, that's a topic we can go into. All right. Instance, multi-mesh instance. I have no idea how it's used. Maybe other people have used this before. Feel free to teach me when I'm stuck. But let me read the text documentation and see what it says. All right, a specialized node to instance a multi-mesh resource in 2D. This can be faster to render compared to display. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Especially if the nodes take up a lot of space on screen at high viewport resolution. Not relevant to us right now. This is because using mesh designed to fit the sprite's opaque area will reduce GPU fill rate utilization, blah, blah, blah. Okay, have no idea. This is not very helpful. So I'm going to go to multi-mesh here and see if there's more utilization. Using a multi-mesh instance. Optimization using multi-meshes. Okay, interesting. I'm going to open both of these, see if any of those are relevant to what we're doing. Using multi-mesh instance 3D specifically. But I can't imagine that this will be very different from using 2D as well. So we'll read through this, I think. Hey, thanks for the follow. I think that was Strudelhunt. Welcome to the pack, I guess, of some sort. Yints or Yink 87. Yench. Thanks for the follow on Twitch. Welcome. All right. All right, multi-mesh instance. In a normal scenario, you would use mesh instance 3D. Oh, interesting. Mesh instance. Hold on. Is there regular mesh instance? Oh, there is. Hold on. I'm going to look at what this is. I mean, multi-mesh, I assume, because we're going to be doing multiple meshing, so to speak. Mesh instance 2D. Node used for displaying mesh in 2D. This can be faster to render compared to displaying sprite. Okay, so even regular mesh instance is faster than... Okay. So I'm going to go with the mesh instance first before looking into multi-mesh, because I want to understand what mesh instance is. Fausrook says, I think it is just a way to display a similar mesh based on coordinates in a way that is more performant than doing it for each instance. Yeah. I mean, that's okay. So I understood that. That's why I was a little afraid of actual performance boost. Because I'm like, isn't that just basically what I'm doing using rendering server anyways? So we'll see. We'll see. We'll find out. Might not be. Transfer. Okay. Create it from existing sprite via tool in the editor toolbar. I don't need to do all that. I'm guessing the texture. Let's see. Nope, it doesn't really explain what these things are. Hold on. The mesh is the mesh that will be drawn by mesh instance 2D. Texture 2D that will be used if using the default canvas item material. Not understanding what that means. It's okay. We're just going to create a new mesh here. Different types of meshes. I'm going to assume that we're going to need array mesh, prism. You know what? Boom. Let's see what each mesh type is. It's not going to really tell me, is it? We're going to just have to learn it through trials and error. I was hoping that it'll tell me what is what. Mesh type that provides utility for constructing a surface from array. You can't see it. Here, hold on. Let me, I know you won't be able to see this. There you go. Definitely not point mesh. I want to do a texture class representing a planar mesh. Placeholder class for a mesh. It's probably plain for 2D, right? Let's do quad mesh. It looks 3D though. I guess I could represent it as 3D. Size in meters? Size property is in meter. Fausrook says rendering server is lower level, I think. So yes. So multi-mesh is kind of an in between. So it will be faster or slower than the rendering server then. So it won't be faster than well, there's a chance that I'm using rendering server wrong. So the way I did the rendering server, let's see. The way I did the rendering server is that I have registered a sprite, a single sprite, so sprite per item. And it comes up with a RID, resource ID, for each of the sprite. And for that sprite, I'm transforming it and then setting that transform. And then at the end, the rendering server would draw. Um, hey, thanks for the follow, Mitnick. PenQ14 says, thanks for the tip, pal. What game are you making? What genre is it? Well, right now we're just doing an experiment. The game that I'm actually, you know what? Might as well. Let's see. Steam. What is this? Steam. Not data. Steam Works. So I have a game coming up that I need to create a trailer and demo for. I'm going through a UI UX audit with a designer. It's taking a little bit longer than I hoped. It was supposed to be a lot quicker of a project than what it has taken so far. But it's a I worked on it for like 5 months now, I guess. It's a roguelike strategy adventure where basically the world is graph traversal and it's like a resource management plus, items and upgrades in a typical roguelike fashion. And the goal is basically going from point A to point B. But at the end of the day, it has like different stories and unlocks and secrets hidden between the generation that the experience becomes different and there are things to unlock. One unique thing that I haven't really revealed is that the character's narrative gets randomly rolled. So even the narrative is roguelike. So some of the decisions that the NPCs make or type of personality that NPCs take for the run is randomized, which you can lock in once you do achievements and stuff like that. So Through the Shatter, coming soon, I guess. Wish list if you like. Here we go. I'll put it up there. Let people know. I haven't released the most recent Steam yet. So, well, it's discouraging to hear that the mesh instance is probably slower than rendering server since rendering server is lower, but I'm going to try to do it anyway since I've never done it. How does it work though? I actually don't know how to go about learning this. Let's see. Mesh instance 2D. How about this? How to use mesh instance 2D in Godot. Let's see if this comes up with anything. When mesh has to be instantiated more than thousands of times close to each other, consider using multi-mesh. So it is saying go use multi-mesh. Okay, so we'll use multi-mesh. Multi-mesh. And then multi-mesh. Here, usage is same as 3D. Using multi-mesh instance. Setting up the nodes. The basic setup requires 3 nodes, multi-mesh instance 3D node, and then the two regular mesh instance 3D nodes. I see. So you need a multi-mesh and then you need the regular mesh instance. Okay. Why 2 though? We'll find out. Minnick says, what is Godot good for versus UE5? Easy starting point, I think, compared to UE5. Setup, open source, not tied by a company and their updates. So gives you an opportunity to, if you need to make your own changes to the game engine yourself, which most people don't need to do that, so it's not it's a moot point. But yeah, that's the main thing. Unreal Engine. Still, Bobby Hill says UI, in my opinion. Some people prefer the UE5 UI, though. That's like preference, I think. Pank says, looks fun. The art, though, no offense. Hey, look. It's a very specific type of game. I like the pixel art feel. It's still taste-made art. Kelso says Godot is good if you have 5 years of experience in programming. Fosrook says one limitation I heard about multi-mesh 3D, for example, is that it does not do per instance distance calling. That seems a little silly. I'm sure that's going to be updated. Mitnick says I see. It's the Linux of game engine. I guess that's a good comparison. It's coming in. It's coming up to be pretty comparable even in 3D. So I don't know. I think it's doing well. Bibble says licensing also if you ever want to release something. Yeah, licensing is free, for example, for sure. I mean that's the whole benefit of it being open source. However, the downside of that is like, for example, the SDKs that the consoles release, like PlayStation, Nintendo, or whatever, will not be readily available without pay, because those, like the SDK, blah blah blah, is like under NDA, sensitive material, so they technically don't want to upkeep it in an open source tool, blah blah blah. Some legal stuff. So that's also one downside. If you want to release in multi-console, you might have to do a little bit more work. But otherwise, it's okay. Let's see. OneNote is used as a target. Okay. So you need one multi-unit mesh and two regular mesh. And one of the node is used as the target, the surface mesh that you want to place multiple mesh on. I see. One of them is surface, one of them is the texture. I see. The other node is used as the source, the mesh that you want to have duplicated. Exactly. So we're using the little Godot icon here as our source. We would use Node 3D node as a root node of the scene. Your scene tree would look like this. Okay. So we'll have another one here, mesh instance. So we'll say source mesh and then target mesh. Basically, right? Now you have everything ready. Select a multi-mesh instance 3D node and look at the toolbar. What toolbar? Oh. Nothing up here. I don't see anything. Do I have to set up the sprites first? You should see an extra button called multi-mesh next to view. I don't see it. Is that only for 3D? This is node 2D, right? Huh. All right, maybe not for 2D. We'll find out if that matters or not. Potentially version difference. You should see an extra button called multi-mesh next to view. Click it and select populate surface in the drop-down menu. This seems like an important thing. Huh. All right. I'm a little concerned that this is not popping up. Whatever it's telling me to do is not working right now. I want to see. Hold on. Multi-mesh 3D. Huh, I guess it is for 3D. For 2D, nothing comes up. Okay. Whatever. That's fine. Hey, thanks for the water. Chikibala. Fausrook says, Ezra, probably only for 3D because I think this is maybe to manually populate on specific mesh, like a grass on terrain, for example. I see. Well, I'll have to learn either way. Hold on, let me get water though. Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay. I see. Chikabala is trying to plant the plants. So you see little tiny berry folks out here where you get to see the chats for. It's actually collectible. You don't see it here on the top right. I'm going to have to turn off my screen real quick. Is this it? Yeah. These are gachapons. There's like an infinite amount of normal berries, but there's like a set amount of regular, like the special berries, which you can collect. There's shiny versions and all. If you're interested in getting them, and you've been watching me for a while on Twitch, you can just use the channel points, which is free. Redeem plant berry folk seed. When you do that, you get a little plant on the screen, and then you can water them up to 9 times, and it becomes a berry folk. So you can do that multiple times to try and get the type of berry that you want. But basically, yeah, if you want a berry folk, you got to plant it first. Just an FYI. Anyways, it's a little gachapon. All right, so it's not going to do that, blah, blah, blah. It's fine. Documentation. Skip this. Multi-mesh setting. Below our description of what that is. Not sure what that is. All right. Not very helpful. Next. Wait, that didn't really... It's just a setting. Is it gonna... It's gonna tell me how to use it? Oh, no. Well, we'll learn the hard way. Multi-mesh. Use colors. If true, the multi-mesh will use color data. Can only be set when... Okay, so it's like changing mesh. Okay. Do I have to do source mesh like this? No, I can't do that. Let's do a plain mesh. Or maybe quad mesh. Quad mesh. And then we'll get a... Wait, how do I get a texture though? Ooh, hey, we got Fauzruk in the chat teaching me how to do this. I just find it interesting that the documentation isn't enough to explain all this. Where am I supposed to learn this? I mean, it claims that I could use it. Oh, here's an example of optimization. Maybe I could use that. Streampunk says, is project management in your Wheel of Fortune, Ezra? Oh, it's not. Kind of. We have the project structure, but that's like more literal. Are we talking about like project management, like task, hiring, launch, scheduling, goaling, etc.? Maybe. Okay. Devi says, cries and tech writer. How could they do docs like that? Yeah, exactly. Fauzruk says, I think in your case, you can simply put the multi-mesh with the predefined mesh you want to use, and in code, you tell how many instances and where each instance could be located. But if you've never used a regular mesh, maybe that should be a better start. Yeah, I never used regular mesh either before. So let's see. How does the mesh work? I mean, it also doesn't help that I've never used 3D before. So this is a learning experience for all of us. Multi-mesh is a single draw primitive that can draw up to millions of objects in one go. It's extremely efficient because it uses GPU, yes. The only drawback is that there is no screen or frustum calling possible for individual instances. This means that millions of objects will always or never draw. Oh, there is no calling. That may or may not be a good thing. It is possible to provide custom visibility erect for them, but it will always be all or on none. I see. Okay. Streampunk says project management, tasking, hiring, goaling, budgeting. Okay. That's in the queue now. We'll try to get our experts for those things. It is also possible to execute some logic inside the vertex shader. Blah, blah, blah. Another alternative is to use GD extension. Not interested. Multimesh.new, transform format. instance count. So that can be, okay, interesting. And then in the multi-mesh, for each visible instance, you can set the transform. This looks just like rendering service, unfortunately. I wonder if I can just do the texture this way. What if I did this? Instance count 1,000. Will I be able to see it? 1,000. Or does it have to be the mesh? That open document. Mesh resource to be instanced. I see. So I do need to create an actual mesh instance. Quad mesh, I think. Can I do texture? How do I do texture mesh? There has to be ways to do it. Let's see. Fowsrook says, I only did 3D, so I won't be able to help with the 2D mesh part, unfortunately. I mean, I feel like the mesh material will be exactly the same. How do I put a texture on top of the mesh? Is it a thing I can do? Or do I have to go like this, where I go like this, and then I do one of these things? Oh, it is there, right? Source mesh. I see some. Oh, wait, hold on. I see something. Ooh, what's going on here? Hold on. Hold on. 100. I feel like it's squashed in there. Is it? Is there? Is there a way to increase this surface? Yeah. Hold on. (2D) size. Whoa! I don't know what's happening, but something's happening, and this is not what it's. Oh, hold on, hold on. Well, we'll figure it out. Okay, we'll figure it out. I don't know what. Hold on. AABB. Custom AABB for this multi-mesh resource. Setting this manually prevents costly runtime AABB calculation. No idea. Let's not use that. Vazir says, usually set a material on the mesh. Right. Right. But this material, if I do quad mesh on this, and then you set a material, but there's only like, whoa. Can I do texture for the material? There has to be. Maybe I don't use the 3D. Oh, what do I have to do, like a shader here? I do shader material. That seems a little backwards. Hold on. I gotta do this. Hold on. How to set texture to quad mesh in Godot. Hold on, let me read this. It says, to set a texture to a quad mesh in Godot, assign a standard material 3D. Okay, so I have to do that. So do a standard material 3D. Then go to albedo. Oh, that's what you were talking about, Fazaruk. Yeah, I was like, there has to be ways to just do texture on top of the 3D wrapping. There you go. Hey, we got it. We got a material. that was a little too difficult here. So let's see. We're gonna do quad mesh. We're gonna create a material. This just seems a little roundabout. I just want to be able to see it do things. I mean, I see it. I see it right there. I see that the quad mesh is indeed there. Texture is correct. And then somehow, wait, what is this? This is a multi-mesh at 1000 instances. I have to transform them, but like, why is it all squashed? Right, that's the question here. Do I have to set transform for each one of them? What is the test parent node? It's just regular node 2D. Does it have to be a canvas? No. I mean, it's by nature canvas. Well, let me get rid of these meshes. It's definitely confusing. So I want to know what this is doing, this like little squashy thing. I want to see what that looks like on the map. It's definitely some sort of line. Okay. Let me just, how about this? I'm going to set the transform to 0. Does this do anything? No, it doesn't. We have a mesh already. I don't think I need to do anything with it. Okay. Instance count seems like definitely. I just feel like the where the visible area is all like squashed for some reason. I'm not really sure what the mesh surface, like the visible surface, is. Let's see. I wonder. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. I think. What if I draw it programmatically like the other thing did right here? Transform 3D. Why is it 3D though? So I have a multi-mesh. Let's say I have a multi-mesh here. This just seems like not very useful way to do this. But we'll find out. We'll get to the end of it. Fosrook says, can you try on clean scene maybe? Okay, fine. Scene, mesh test. So we come here, add multi-mesh. And then we do a new multi-mesh. And then we're going to have a mesh of quad mesh. We're going to add a standard 3D material. And on albedo, we're grabbing our texture. And then we're going to increase the instance count to 1. And then have 1 visible. Nothing. Oh. Wait, what is going on here? Something's definitely... it's doing something. Yeah, see, it doesn't seem like it's very usable, but it is still available tool. It's like I wanna use it. Okay. Why is it white? It doesn't feel right. What are we talking about? Instance count must be 0 to toggle where custom data is. No. Okay. What the heck? Oh, okay. I'm not sure what numbers I'm looking at. What are these buffers? Why is it being populated? Uh, using multi-mesh 2D instance to draw textures in Godot. Hold on. I'll follow a step here. Aha. Now this will categorize as using AI to learn, wouldn't it? I'm cheating, but it's bare minimum here. Yeah. In the inspector, assign a new multi-mesh, yes. Set to 2D. Instance count to the desired count. Create a quad mesh. Adjust its size. But it's not in pixels. The size the size is, I can't do 32 by 32 because it's not a pixel, it's a meter. I have to go more like 0.2 to 0.2 or something. Right? It makes no sense to set it to 32. So that's already wrong here. Match my texture dimension. I don't know what my texture dimension is. Assign your target image directly to the texture property. Assign your target image. Oh. Wait, you don't even need to do the albedo thing. It's just a space. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay. That's the mesh, and that mesh will receive this texture. Okay. I think. NYC Reaching says Gemini search inference is not as good as GPT 5.6. I'm trying not to go full AI on this. I'm trying to use regular search method here. But it's pretty bad. Hold on. So I'm going to go 10, 10. Something's happening. It's not correct though. What if I make it so that size is 6? Nope. Center offset, there's nothing. Orientation is Z. Not that. Honestly, at this point, it feels like I don't want to use mesh instance at all. But I'm gonna keep going. I really just want to see a single regularly drawn mesh here. Multi-mesh instance 2D in Godot to draw textures. File Zurich says, I think I understand what is going on. The rotation is wrong. The rotation, you mean like this? Apply a custom shader material to the multi-mesh 2D. Okay, hold on. Assign a new multi-mesh resource to its multi-mesh property. Set a multi-mesh format to transform 2D. Yep. Enable use custom data. Interesting. Okay, why? Yeah, it's like projecting 3D element into a 2D space. That's why it's going all weird. Okay, hold on. All right, we got a different one here. To draw multiple different textures with single, combine your images into texture atlas and use custom data, per instance, custom floats or colors, in the canvas item shader to adjust UV coordinate for each instance. And then you need a shader implementation? I don't know. Oh, there's a Godot for multi-mesh tutorial. Here. Let me just make sure I don't play any sound here. Wow, somebody who knows more than me have already stepped through this path. Wait, this is 3D though. Please stop with the 3D. Give me 2D information. Um, yes. Okay, okay. Actual 2D. Oh, sorry. All right. Well, I'm not going to steal this, but I guess if you're interested, go help the Pathfinder's Codex. Hold on. A lot of information. I feel like these are very important information for me to understand how to use this. I gotta understand how to use this. Hold on. Guys, this is way too much already. He has a whole plan for doing these steps. It doesn't seem like these are all individual, like texture drawing strategy. This seems silly. I almost want to. I almost want to say don't use this. I agree this is really badly documented, but this is an opportunity for us to contribute to the community here. Currently, the multi-mesh instance 2D docs page say just like 3D, but this is actually not at all the case. Before you're using multi-mesh instance 2D for the first time, it might be a good idea to check out and test mesh instance 2D. Principle used, but mesh instance 2D does not have the multiple part, which makes it easier to comprehend. Okay, is it? All right, let's try to comprehend regular mesh instance 2D. We'll do the same thing. We got the quad mesh. Oh, see? Quad mesh draws a little mesh. And then I can give a little texture. Aha! See, this was simple enough. And then what if I made it smaller? Ah, okay. Look, it's working. And then it's flipped upside down. So, I don't know. Can I rotate it somehow? I would think that you should be able to. Oh, I see, I see. This is like, okay, facing Z direction. Z is coming out. Um, I don't know how to rotate it back. uh, let's see. Fauzruk says probably the defaults are wrong. Defaults. So I think the issue is that the count and position with multi-mesh is that you are expected to do that by code. I see. Okay. I'm going to try it then. So assuming that's what that is, we have our multi-mesh instance. I'm not going to try to rely on it to draw on it properly, but we're going to have our quad mesh, and it doesn't require a material since we are assigning a texture, ideally. And then we're going to do instance and visible instance count manually, or programmatically rather, by doing an update here. So when we are, this is going to be, it's going to be a long way to test this. Yeah, it does a random position and thing. Okay. So when we're starting an experiment for the ECS version, character components dot new, we do that, component gets created, and when we're doing an update, as part of our or I think I'm going to do it on create here, we'll grab our multi-mesh instance 2D, and then we're going to probably set the instance count to be our entity count, along with, I guess, visible count as well. We'll test it with low count first. And so we already have multiple copies of the mesh. And when we're rendering here, we did the update here, and then we're about to do update render. We're going to probably skip this. We'll just make one that's like func, update render, multi-mesh, which will be multi-mesh instance 2D here. And then I think you can set transform for each one of them if you look at the example of it. Steampunk says, just flip it. Flip is good. Yeah, exactly. I don't know how to iterate through a canvas item in the multi-mesh. I think I saw that somewhere before. So I just want to get to that. Yeah. Multi-mesh dot visible instance count. So for each one of them, I do multi-mesh set instance transform. Okay, so that's what I need to do. So for when we're updating from this, we basically go for I in, well, we don't even need to do that because we know exactly how many there are. Character IDs, size. We're going to go multi-mesh, something set transform, right? Set transform. What was it called? Set instance transform. Instance wait, it doesn't even exist. The multi-mesh instance 2D doesn't even have a set instance transform function. Am I crazy? Godot multi-mesh 2D instance. Oh, wait, what? You forgot dot multi-mesh. Oh, I gotta get the multi-mesh of the multi-mesh. Oh, I see. Instance. Actual multi-mesh. Mult. Multi-mesh set instance transform 2D. And then we're going to go through each instance and provide a transform, which we calculated by doing one of these, a 2D transform, and then provide that. Yes? Oh, shoot. I got a phone call. Just give me a second, everyone. All right, timing is good. I think I might have to go and help something. But I'm not gone forever. Just an FYI. Okay, so there's two versions of update render. I'm going to comment this out for now. We're almost there, I feel. And then we'll provide the multi-mesh instance 2D here. So it'll update. And then everything will be handy dandy, right? Are we cool? We'll find out. Okay. It's not doing it, but it's trying its best. Hold on, I want to bring it down to see. It's doing something. So hold on. I'm guessing the transform is not being applied, but at least it's drawing the texture, which is giving me a little bit more hope. Bibble says, wow, look at that performance improvement. Yeah, 0 millisecond. That's so good. The true value in optimization is to make the game not do anything, and it makes your performance go skyrocket. Hold on. At least I want to make it draw properly, though. I do think that there's a potentially a problem with the. Wait, what the heck? Yeah, this is correct. Uh huh. Update render here. So this is running every time. It's going through each one of them. It's going to try to render the position for each instance ID. Correct? Transform. Yes. And I do believe this will be different for each one of them if I test it out. So we got 981 to 399. We got, yeah, I mean, it's all variety. This part is not the wrong part. It's applying the right information. It's just not. Is there even appropriate amount of instances? Which I don't see why it wouldn't. Right here, entity count is clearly 1,000. Sets to that. I mean, I could just look at the remote version of it and see the value. Multi-mash instance has this multi-mash here. Oh, instance counts has not been set. Wait, what? Number of instances, yeah? So we come here, multi-mesh instance comes through. The remote version, if you look at the multi-mesh, when this gets set, the number is supposed to be set, but it's not. Why is it not set? Hold on. I opened that. It's already open. So I could even like go somewhere else, open this object, look at the multi-mesh and look at the instance count. It's still set to 0. Even though entity count was 1,000. The assignment is not happening. This could be a weird bug thing. Programmatically assigning instance count for multi-mesh instance to D, not working. Changing this count dynamically on multi-mesh often fails or clears existing data because updating the count resets the internal buffer. Furthermore, properties like use color custom data cannot be changed while yeah. Order operation, configure formats like transform format, use color, or use data before. Wait, do I have to reset this every time? Hold on. That seems a little silly, but I wonder if that's... Hold on. Fauzruk says, I managed to make it work, by the way. Did you do it programmatically? Like what I'm doing right now? Or am I going the direction that is different from what you were doing? Test. Let's see. We got the character here, or not the character, component here. feel like I need to set the transform, then set the instance count, potentially. Fosler says, yeah, programmatically, this is the way. Well, have you run into the thing that I'm running into where the instance count is not being set? It's just staying to 0, even if I set it. Boop. Fowsrook says, this is what I did in the loop. The instance count seems fine. Multi-mesh set instance transform 2D, which is what I did. Yeah, everything is exactly the same except my instance count is not working for some reason. What if I preset it to 1000 instead of doing it programmatically here? Which makes no sense to me that it wouldn't work because of this. Also, even if that was the case, why isn't the one... I feel like this is just visual graphic or visual bug. Because if that was the case, why is that little one entity showing up in the left corner? The transform is correct. I don't know what, I don't know what else I did. Did I set anything else? Is it the mesh? The sizing is exactly the same. I didn't do anything. Did you use the material instead of texture? I don't know. I'm a little bit confused here. Yeah, just texture, multi-mesh. I'm using quad mesh because it's a square texture. And then nothing else changed. Programmatically speaking, I tried to make it... Hold on. What happens without the entity count? Even without the entity count set up, it does that. Oh, you know what I... Maybe it's because I need to... Wait, but it's exactly the same. Multi-mesh new, transfer format, 1000, instance count, and the format. Maybe I need to initialize first. I just don't understand how it's different. So we have multi-mesh instance here. Multi-mesh. Visible count. And then we're going to do this as a entity count here. Does visible count have to be lower? Do they not have to be equal? What if I set a... No, nothing. Yeah, I don't know. It makes no sense to me why it wouldn't work. What if I only do 1000 instance to show? This is crazy. I might have to, well, I'm going to have to go get stuff here in a bit. Fryer says, hi, what's a good tutorial or production workflow to make UI-based game like Papers, please? Ooh, that's a heavy question. I would totally answer that question, but I was about to go out. Um, the Caticle says, hello, new here. What are we creating? We're doing just some kind of learning, part of the optimization thing. We try ECS a little bit. We're blocked by rendering. So we tried different rendering things. And then finally, we're getting to using multi-mesh instance 2D to optimize rendering. And we're trying to experiment with that. I'm having a little bit of trouble. I think I have to go, though. I have to get going. So I'm going to raid out here. Thanks, everyone, for watching. As you can see, it's very apparent that I don't know what I'm doing, but, you know, part of it is learning. So it's been very exciting. Fryer says, okay, thanks. Anyway, good luck with this. Thank you. I appreciate that. Fazruk says, you need to use transform 2D, not 3D here. Okay, well, I'm going to do that. Let's see if that instantiation of the transform helps or not. But I do have to run, so I'm gonna just rate and run. Let's see, who do we go to? Uh, Hypnotic. Have we did? Yeah, we haven't been to Hypnotic in a while. We'll go to Hypnotic as usual. Okay. Yeah. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll be back next week, probably, maybe. We'll see. So if not already, join my Discord so you get the announcement. And also feel free to add the viewer topic so I can learn slash teach that as well. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye. Okay. Twitch is done. YouTube, you're lucky enough to be still here. Once this goes through. All right. Bye, YouTube.